Rust, we're recording. Hello. We're
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. Glad you're
Cool, cool.
asking.
Yeah. Guys, this is Rust. Rust
Hey,
is super
everybody.
cool. Rust is super cool. Rust is a YouTube channel. Rust is going to be talking with me today about House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 7, titled The Red Sowing. And this was the Dragon Seed episode, and it was super cool. Um, so how this show works is that I have a bunch of images with me right now, and these images are just going to act as like prompts for what we're going to say throughout this episode. This is just mainly us rambling about whatever we feel like because it is our show. So yeah, Rust. Overall, what did you think of this episode? What are some uh memorable moments, I guess, that stand out to you?
So it was definitely more engaging than the last episode.
Oh yeah.
If I'm being honest, I think that Daemon's visions are pretty boring, and I feel like last episode was like 80% his hallucinations, especially compared to the types of visions that we get in the original book series.
Mm.
Like the visions we got from those books were amazing. They were great. They were engaging, and then we just have Daemon. I don't know what you would even say he's doing. Anyway, those parts are boring, in my opinion.
That is fair.
So I think this episode was a lot better than the last one. Uh, let's see. Notable moments here. The Kingsguard being sent to the wall. They didn't dwell on that very long. Those were
Yep.
Kingsguard, right?
Yeah.
Being
Those
sent to
were
the wall?
Aegon's
Okay.
lackeys.
Because the first time I watched, I heard they're sending them to the wall, and I looked up and realized I didn't know who they were talking about. So when I rewatched it, I was like, those are Kingsguard? So that was interesting. I wonder if anything's going to come from that. Let's see here. Well, I have all kinds of questions, basically.
Yeah.
I don't want to put things out of order, but so my first question was, do you think that the dragons are picking their riders based on some sort of bond, or is it based
Ooh.
on their behavior?
Yeah, that is super interesting. Since we do have this image up on screen with Cyrax and Sea Smoke, we can talk a little bit about that. I don't I don't really know. I don't think there's like a science behind the art of dragon riding and bonding with dragons. I really think it's just up to the dragon to decide, like based off of vibes, like if they want to bond with the rider or not. Because, Vermithor, and we saw in last season, Vagar as well. They seem to be dragons who, uh, respect like strength and bravery and courage. Meanwhile, we have like Silverwing and Silverwing this episode just like bonding with Ulf, but just because like Ulf happened to be there, and then we have Adam and Sea Smoke, and Sea Smoke
Yep.
probably I would say bonded with Adam because.
But that's what I'm trying to figure out. If
Yeah.
another person had done the exact same thing, would the dragon have bonded with them, or did it have to be that person?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and I don't think there's an answer to that. I don't think there's like a clear answer to that so far.
Oh no, I know that much. And then on top of
Um,
that, if it is person specific, is it based on like their smell? Can they like smell a little bit of
oh yeah.
Dragon Lord in them, or is it like some sort of magical bond that they don't
Mhm.
really have a control over? Like there's a lot of questions here.
I think if we ever get some answers to like how dragon bonding works, it'll. I mean, George said that some things will be revealed in the Winds of Winter. He, I mean, some things might be revealed if they ever do an old Valyria show, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I think it's just supposed to be this sort of mystery, and I don't even know if the Targaryen blood even matters, right? I don't know if some like uh some random person uh acted like very courageously and in front of Vermithor. I don't know if Vermithor would have accepted that person. It's ambiguous.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is the implication of Sea Smoke going to Adam in relation to like Laenor? What do you think is happening there? Because I've seen talk about like Laenor being dead. I've seen talk about like Laenor like severing the bond. What do you think is happening there?
I just got the impression we were just supposed to forget about Laenor.
Oh, okay.
So I really haven't put any thought into him.
Sure.
So it all depends. If the bond is magical, then this means that he's either dead or has figured out how to sever it. If the bond is not magical, then, his dragon just got lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. We see and this isn't like too much of a spoiler, but we see in the trailer for next episode, we see I think Tywin Lannister going to is it the Stepstones? I don't know, but like wherever the pirates are. We're gonna get like Shirako Lohar then in the next episode probably.
Nice.
I would say that, if we were getting Laenor, it'll probably be in relation to those pirates or something. But yeah, I don't know if the Laenor ship has sailed.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. No, because I really want Laenor to come back.
Pirate Roberts.
Yeah, I really want Laenor to come back, but at this point, we haven't had a lot of Laenor mentions this season, and I don't know if we will be getting any Laenor mentions in the future. But yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting the impression that they were writing him off the show, so I hadn't really put any thought into it. But it'd be cool, like if all of a sudden like another crab feeder popped up. And they go to take care of it, and it's like him, behind the mask.
It's Laenor, yeah. That would be interesting, yeah. I don't know. I also find it interesting that... Actually, that's a spoiler. Now that I think about it, I'm thinking about a spoilery thing. So yeah, for we can talk more about dragons at the end. Do you have anything more you would like to say in regards to these dragons? Sea Smoke and... Okay, gotcha.
No, that was really my only question was, do we know how they pick? And that's something we need to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, the dragon bone stuff.
Was that... that's at the end of the episode, never mind.
Yeah. We can talk about spoiler stuff at the end. For now, let's...
Put it in my notes down here.
Ooh. We have Aegon, and Aegon's not looking so hot. I find it really interesting...
I had questions about that.
Okay. Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead, I'm finding mine.
Okay, gotcha. I find it interesting that Aegon is looking more and more like Viserys. Right. I've seen lots of people compare Aegon's current state to Viserys' state in episode 8, which we actually got to see that. We actually got to see episode 8 Viserys this episode. It was the scene directly... I think it was the scene directly before we got the Aegon scene this episode.
That's the one thing I don't mind about Daemon's visions is that we get to see Paddy for a little bit.
Yeah, and we love Paddy. Always great having him around. But yeah, Aegon clearly doesn't have a lot, if any, power anymore. What do you think is going to happen with his story going forward? We see that Larys is still trying to be close to Aegon in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I think Larys has a plan to turn him back into the king. With owing Larys a lot at the same time. So we see last episode, Larys tells the king, you need to embrace your grotesqueness, right? Make that your power. use it as a shield to hide things you don't want people to see. People are going to think you're weak. Let them think you're weak, right? And then, the whole Sun Tzu thing. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to see the king sort of publicly being disabled and grotesque, but behind the scenes he's going to be growing stronger and stronger and stronger, and then one day he's going to walk into the council chamber and be like, thanks brother, I'm fully healthy now, give me my seat back. And then if anybody doesn't want to give him, doesn't support him taking his seat back, they're going to have to explain right then and there why.
That's
so
really
there's that sort of power play upcoming, I think, because it's going to happen. He's not permanently disabled, so either Larys is going to be successful in propping him back up, or his brother might have to do something to take him out in another way again.
Yeah. I mean,
this was the question I had after we get the last episode where Larys tells him to embrace his grotesqueness. This episode, when we see him, the king, screaming in pain, when Larys eventually comes in, he says something like, I'll try to give you more warning next time or something.
Yeah.
It almost felt like this entire scene was staged. They wanted people to hear the king screaming in pain so that rumors would go around that he was still fucked up.
Oh.
And that's why I think Larys is pushing him so hard, is first of all, that everybody who's walking by thinks the king is still, out of his mind, basically. And at the same time, he's pushing, I guess, what you'd call physical therapy as hard as he can to get the king back up on his feet as quickly as he can. So, I think he's going to play the bed-bound invalid anytime somebody comes to see him, especially his brother. But behind the scenes, I think he's got that determination going, and I think we're going to see a real struggle for power coming.
Cool stuff. That's a really interesting take. My take on this scene focuses more on Larys, and so I read it as Larys wanting to push Aegon, doing all of this physical therapy, even though it's difficult for Aegon, if you have to use your muscles or else they'll atrophy. So my take on this is that this a similar thing. That Larys had to go through a similar thing maybe when he was young, at Harrenhal. With his clubfoot, right? Maybe Harwin Breakbones was the person who pushed him to do all of this physical therapy. So I find it interesting that Larys is sort of genuinely sympathizing with Aegon now, due to his disability. And because before we've never really seen Larys empathizing with anyone. Anytime he says
I don't know
anything...
if it's genuine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say that there's definitely a lot of I do this for you, you do this for me with Larys going on.
I think that he and the king's interests converge at the moment.
Yeah.
And
I think a part of Larys.
I think that he's working towards Aegon's best interest at the moment, but just because that's also Larys' best interest.
Yeah. I think that Larys is partly empathizing with Aegon, partly being this is an opportunity for me to take advantage of Aegon, make him curry favor with him, right? And it's really interesting to see what happens next with Aegon and Larys. And while we're at it, I don't know if it's this screenshot or this screenshot. It's this screenshot. Great. Do we want to talk more about? Do we want to talk more about Larys and this conversation with him and Ironrod?
Who's he talking to here, by the way?
Ironrod.
Iron what?
Ironrod. He was okay. He was a tertiary character in the books. His name is Jasper Wilde. He's the master of I think he's the master of coin, or no, the master of laws. I think the master of laws.
Pulling him up right here.
And he got his name Ironrod
under Viserys and Aegon. Okay.
Yeah, he got his name Ironrod officially because of the stiffness of his laws, but unofficially because of the stiffness of his member. Was is what was written in the book. So interesting guy. We haven't seen too much of him.
That chapter was written by Mushroom, wasn't it?
Yeah, that chapter was indeed written by Mushroom. That detail. Okay. But yeah, we see Ironrod talking to Laris, and they decide to withhold information from Aemond. They learn about Ironrod tells Laris that he heard that Sea Smoke.
A guy who heard from a guy who heard from a guy.
Yeah, exactly. That his like squire heard from his father, who heard from like a fisherman that like Sea Smoke had a new rider, and they decide to not tell Aemond this episode.
I thought
how do you read Laris, the scene?
Well, first off, I thought Laris was just telling Ironrod not to do it because Laris was going to go do it himself. That's what I thought was happening. But then it didn't. So maybe Laris thinks that the information isn't reliable, confirmed well enough. Yeah. Maybe he genuinely thinks that, because I can't think of any other good reason for that. Unless it were like if it was him running to tell the guy first, that would make sense. But other than that, I just don't get it.
I have a read on this this conversation that sort of draws upon what I think Laris's like ultimate motivations are.
Okay.
Because so far, Laris is like a very enigmatic figure. He's a very mysterious figure. We don't really know like what his motivations are and like why is he loyal to the Greens. I think that Laris is working towards the death of all of the dragons. I think that's Laris's goal. I think Laris just wants to see all of the dragons die. Like, irrespective of like if they're on Team Black or on Team Green. I think that Laris is working towards the destruction of all of the dragons. And I think the rationale here...
because he's concerned about the realm, like Varys, or do you think this is pure self-interest, like Littlefinger?
I'm not sure. I think it... I'm not sure if it's... if this desire is benevolent or not. I don't know if this goal is good or not, but I would say it, like... I would say purely because this show is trying to make us sympathize with a lot of the characters. I would say that it's probably like a benevolent goal that he's trying to work towards. Because, dragons are like nuclear warheads, like the nuclear warheads of Westeros, right? And so...
So if he's genuinely concerned about the small folk as far as dragons, and if he's genuinely feeling bad or feeling kinship with King Aegon, see, the reason I feel that Laris has no empathy is just because of the way he murdered his father and brother. So if he is genuinely like doing other things because he's a good person, it makes me wonder like how shitty his father and brother must have been to him that he was okay with just that sort of killing.
Yeah, it's... Like my theory here is like, I'm grasping a little bit. I don't think Laris's goals are supposed to be clear right now. I think maybe in the future we're going to get a scene where Laris, tells someone what his actual goals are, but I've always...
figure out if he's lying or not.
Yeah. I've always noticed that Laris has been, like, even in season 1, I've noticed that he's been doing things that further escalate the inevitable conflict of the Dance of the Dragons, right? It's almost like he's trying to work towards a war, right? In season 1, episode 3, he tells Alicent that Rhaenyra, might be pregnant, or that might be episode 4. He tells Alicent that Rhaenyra is unwell, right? And I think he did that with the intent of like creating a rift between the two. So,
Yeah.
and eventually like a war will break out, and eventually, like, if a war breaks out, the dragons might get involved, and if the dragons all kill each other, no more dragons, right? And I think the
Yeah.
reason why.
So
Sorry, go on.
that would no, that would just go to the whole reason why he doesn't want to tell the regent about the dragon. If he is genuinely stoking, it's just that would make things worse for them to find it out at a later date. So
Yeah.
if your theory's correct, and now that you say that, I very much see that in all of his actions. And then it makes me wonder if he's doing, because he is very much to me a combination of Varys and Littlefinger.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's just the whole chaos is a ladder mentality, where he's like, I'll create as much chaos as I can, and then maybe I can come out on top.
Yeah.
Or, again, we still don't know what his motivations are, and it's going to be interesting to learn those once we do.
I can see a world where it's like either or, whether his goals are like self-interested, or if they're more altruistic. I can see a world where, because we see last episode he wanted to be appointed to the position of the Hand of the King, so like, we see him trying to climb up the ladder, but, well, I'm trying to think of an example of where Laris has acted like selflessly, and I'm struggling here. Maybe this really is like self-interested, but yeah, it's interesting.
The only thing that might be, and again, it is probably self-serving, but I think it was his little speech to Alicent about the lemon tree growing, where it was hostile or something like that.
Yeah,
it was Alicent talking to, right?
Yes, yeah,
okay.
That's right.
That felt heartfelt in the moment. Now, again, ingratiating himself with the Queen Mother at the same time, but I don't know. It seemed like something that he went out of his way. He didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe he's the type of person who was just like bullied by everyone, and now wants to like lash out at everybody. Yeah. That might.
Yeah.
That could be his intention. But yeah, interesting character. I definitely think we're going to see a scene of him in the future, where he reveals his intentions. In
season 1, I did not expect him to be one of the most interesting characters coming out of this, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's really interesting. And with all of the rats around King's Landing, where do you stand on the conversation that Laris might be warging the rats? Do you think that's like baseless speculation?
Warging the rats?
Yes, warging the rats.
Well, I mean, it is baseless speculation, but that doesn't mean it's not entirely accurate and a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It would be awesome if that's what was happening.
Yeah.
It might be a little more realistic that he has a warg that he like keeps locked in a cage.
Oh, sure.
And makes him do the rats for him.
Okay.
Something like that. It would not surprise me at all, though, to learn that he was using some sort of magic in his. But at the same time, he might also be intentionally stoking those ideas just to give himself a sense of mystery and all-knowingness.
You think Laris is
the corridors in Maegor's Holdfast?
Yep.
Maegor's hidden passages. He's probably using those just as much, and that's from real history. The Medici had a listening hole in the confessional where all of the nobles would do their confessions, and then they would blackmail them using it. So, it could just be an aura that he's trying to foment. But it's also entirely possible that he's got access to either himself or another warg.
Yeah, Mira and I were talking a little bit about this, and Mira came up with the idea that, like Laris and his brother Harwin, they were raised at Harrenhal. And she pointed out that in episode 3, we see that Laris is sort of gossiping with the other ladies because I guess, he can't do the quote unquote like manly things during the hunt. So he sits down with the ladies. So Mira came up with the idea that while Harwin was like training with his sword or whatever at Harrenhal, like Laeris might have been practicing magic with Alice Rivers. So, yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Yep.
Who knows if any of it is true.
I didn't even realize till you just mentioned that Harwin was his brother that Laeris is uncle to Rhaenyra's children. That hadn't even occurred to me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's kind of... that's interesting to think about.
Does Laeris know? Laeris knows that Harwin's the father.
Oh, right? Laeris definitely knows. Half the realm knows. But they're just holding it in. They're not talking about it. But yeah, Laeris definitely knows. I would be surprised if he didn't. Yeah. Interesting character.
I wonder if he cares.
Oh, about Jason, Luke, and Joff?
Yeah, I just wonder if he cares at all that they're his nephews, or if it's just a non-issue as far as his plans are concerned.
Yeah. I would say that it's probably not. I would say he probably doesn't give them any thought. But who knows? Yeah. Do you have anything more you want to say about Laeris?
Laeris. No, I don't.
Gotcha. Coolio. We can move on to Alicent. And, okay, so I
feel like I might have my notes out of order. Did we skip over Daemon and his stuff with Oscar?
I think I might have Daemon, where's Daemon? Do I not have a thing about Daemon? Oh, I really don't have a picture about Daemon. Okay. We can talk about Daemon.
I have him between the Kingsguard and the King screaming in pain. So
yeah. Oh, I can't. Oh my god, I can't believe that I forgot about Daemon this episode. Thinking about it, that was one of the coolest scenes besides the dragon plate.
Oh yeah.
But,
the scene with, that actor playing Oscar is incredible.
Yeah, he is. Okay, we can talk about Daemon.
I had no idea he was 16. I thought he was a lot younger than that.
Yeah.
But
let's just stick on this slide. But we're talking about Daemon. Okay. Yeah. Daemon this episode. Yeah, I really enjoyed Oscar Tully. I really enjoyed the contrast between him a couple of episodes ago being this bumbling, stumbling young kid who didn't really know what he was doing, contrasted with this episode where he feels much more sure of himself. I really enjoyed that Oscar Tully was able to stand up to Daemon Targaryen of all people. It was really fun to watch Daemon being put in his fucking place.
Yeah. So this is my question. After that whole scene, right, when Daemon has now done the Queen's justice for the murders that the Brackens and Blackwoods were visiting on each other.
Yeah.
The purpose of that, as far as what Oscar was saying, was sort of to wipe the slate clean for Daemon. Yeah, you fucked up, but now you fixed it.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's really how the Riverlords feel about him right now? Or do you think he just looks weak in front of them because Oscar just told him what to do and he did it?
Oh. That's really interesting. So you're suggesting that because these Riverlords just witnessed Daemon Targaryen acting upon the orders of a little boy, that these Riverlords will now see Daemon Targaryen as someone that can be bossed around. That's what you're suggesting?
I think the term they use in the series is laughing into their cups. Yeah, I think they're going to be laughing at him behind his back.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know what purpose that would bring to the story, but what you said is really, 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 really interesting. Yeah, I wonder if something will come of that in the future. I'm thinking of more spoilery things again.
But that was my only takeaway from that was we're gonna have to wait and see, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
He clearly just got finessed by a 16-year-old boy right in front of everybody.
Yeah, no, I loved Oscar Tully this episode. My God.
Yeah.
I did not expect to love Oscar Tully's that actor's performance as much as I did, but kudos.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that Daemon executed what's his name? Willem Blackwood in front of the Weirwood. I don't know if that
Very nice.
might
I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah. They did it in front of the Weirwood. I like, Brand's probably watching. I don't know if that has any significant. Oh, yeah, no, because they were talking about like tradition the entire time. So what if doing that execution in front of the Godswood was intentional? Yeah.
Wait, the Tullys follow the new gods, though, don't they?
Yeah, they do, which is interesting. But
it doesn't mean that they're not practicing old magic.
Yeah.
When it comes to winning a war.
The Blackwoods. It's interesting. Oh, that's really interesting because the Blackwoods follow the old gods, and the Blackwood was just executed in front of the Weirwood. That's super interesting. Oh my God!
I know in a lot of the things they've got, magic or blood is used to pay for some form of magic. Is that how it works with Weirwoods too?
You'd have to ask Michael Talks About Stuff. I'm not very familiar with the specifics about like the Weirwood network and all of that sort of magic.
Yeah.
That's more Michael or Mira's cup of tea.
Yep.
I just thought, the thought came into my head, now that Willem is dead, we might be starting to see Bloody Ben and Black Alley in the future. Ben Blackwood and Black Alley. Those are, there are some like tertiary characters in, like, not even tertiary characters, but like quaternary characters in George R. R. Martin's books that have like the coolest descriptions, and they just appear in like one not even one chapter. They appear in like one paragraph and then don't show up at all in the rest of the story. Like, and I find that super cool because I have been really looking forward to seeing Black Alley and Ben Blackwood, but now we might be able to like actually get some scenes with them. I'm really interested in seeing how that plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of people like Darkstar in the main series, who just appeared for like one chapter and was the coolest, edgiest motherfucker, and then just fucked off. And it's like he came in, he was like, I am of the night. He cut Marcella a little bit, and then he fucked off. What a cool guy. But and
then he'll bring in a character too and like give us such a wonderful description just before killing them, like the champion that Marine sent out to face Elwes.
Or like Sabitha Frey, who and this is not like a direct quote, but I remember her description being like this lady who enjoyed killing men and kissing women, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, that tells me all I need to know about Sabitha Frey. These really cool side characters, and I hope we get to see more of them. Maybe next episode, maybe in the next season. I would probably say that Ben Blackwood and Black Alley we'd probably get next season.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and we can loop back to Daemon if you want, but I have one more question. Are there any side characters, like tertiary characters, that you're excited to see in the story going forward?
So that's the thing. I read Fire and Blood once, and it was at least 5 years ago, if not more. So pretty much everything that's happening is still a surprise.
All right.
So I don't remember any of the side characters.
Yeah, that is totally fair.
I do from the main series. I've read that repeatedly, but yeah. I have no idea what's coming next, for the most part. Like, I've got a general... I know how everything ends.
Yeah.
But how we get there, I don't really remember.
All
or
right.
any of the people that we get introduced to along the way.
Cool stuff.
But no, that was all I had for Daemon. It was just, do you really think his slate is wiped clean, or does he look weak now? And then I just wanted to mention that his visions are boring, especially compared to the ones that we get in the main book series.
Yeah. I mean, like, it really hit me during, like, episode 5. Like, I think episode 5 was, like, the weakest episode for Daemon, because it felt, like, really repetitive at that point. Yeah. Because episode 3, we got that one vision with Millie Alcock, and that was like, oh my god, that's so cool, right? And then in episode 4, it started with Millie Alcock again, and then you're like, okay, we're continuing this. But by the end of episode 4, it was like, okay, really? And then in episode 5, it started to get just boring, especially for me, especially because it didn't feel like Daemon was changing in response to these visions. Right. For me, Daemon's visions, last episode, I think in episode 6, Daemon's visions were actually quite compelling because he was changed by those visions. And me and MJ talked about this, where I think it's really striking how Daemon is unaffected when shown visions of Rhaenyra and when shown visions of Laena, his own wife. But the thing that really gets to Daemon is when he is shown visions of Viserys, his brother. I think that's really telling. And I genuinely enjoyed Daemon's visions last episode. I feel like his one vision with Viserys this episode was all right. I really hope that his last vision with Viserys was his last vision. I hope that our Daemon tripping balls in Harrenhal arc, I really hope that that has ended. I hope we do more action, going forward with Daemon's character.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I have to say about that. Shall we move on to Alicent Hightower?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, right at the beginning of the episode, we have her being treated for an injury. Is that just from the riot from last episode?
Yeah, that's from the riot last episode. Okay. And it was the injury was in a similar spot to where she slashed Rhaenyra with the cat's paw dagger. So that's an interesting detail.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that looks like exactly what happened to Rhaenyra. And then I was like, where did she get that injury? And I had to try to remember what happened last episode. But that was really the only thing well, she's doing that whole out in the woods thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when she shows who's the guy she's with? What's his name?
I know this. Rickard Thorne. I think. Okay. I think.
So when we get the scene where she's leading her horse and she surprises him, he doesn't notice her till she's within 20 feet somehow, even though there's no undergrowth and she's leading a horse. That felt really weird. I wasn't entirely sure what that was about.
I think whenever we've gotten an Alicent scene this entire season, all I could think about was Shakespeare. Whether it's Lady Macbeth or in this episode, specifically, I was thinking a lot about Ophelia, with the flowers and all that. But now that you mentioned that the Kingsguard was surprised by Alicent, and this is just wild literary analysis, but now that I think about it, Alicent's wearing white underneath her green dress, and to me that sort of reads as she's a ghost now because she's lost all of her authority in the Green Council, and she's invisible to all the people around her, and she reminded that's what that reminds me of. But yeah, the Ophelia connections that I made with her as well. The more I thought about it, the more I'm thinking that Alicent really reminds me of both Lady Macbeth and Ophelia. Lady Macbeth, because we saw in some of the the earlier episodes that she was like trying to scrub herself clean, and she's feeling all of this guilt, and that reminds me of Lady Macbeth. And Ophelia in this episode, because like visually, because of all of the flowers that she's in, and because she has all of these men in her life that she's like connected to, but once all of them start like dying or start acting really awful towards her, that's when she sort of in Hamlet, that's where Ophelia starts going a bit mad. And in House of the Dragon, we see here that Alicent's doing this. And I don't know what this is. I don't know what going into a lake could like symbolize. Maybe this is like a change in her character going forward. Similar to how in episode 3 of this season, Alicent and Rhaenyra's talk was like the changing moment for Rhaenyra. I think that this might be like a changing moment for Alicent, right? What that change could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to say about Alicent? I just really wanted to talk about Shakespeare, because I've been thinking about Shakespeare like whenever I've looked at Alicent this season.
Yeah. No, she definitely has a Shakespearean vibe. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we're going to definitely see a change in her character moving forward now that she's realized, what her place actually is and what her power actually is. And it's going to be interesting to see if she's going to try to like build herself like a little, Queen Mother power base sort of thing, or if she's going to devote herself to the poor, or if she's going to, devote herself to religion. It's going to be interesting to see what she does. But whatever it is, I think she's going to try to do something to make herself, relevant in some way.
Yeah, because I'm like...
What exactly that entails, I have no idea.
A lot of the criticism... there's been a lot of criticism surrounding House of the Dragon, and specifically Rhaenyra and Alicent's characters this season, and most of the criticism stems from the fact that it doesn't seem like Rhaenyra and Alicent are doing anything. But I think, in many ways that's sort of the point. It's that these characters are, like, in this season, are characters that have things happen to them, rather characters that do things that affect the story. And I think...
And that's such a powerful parallel, because Alicent isn't supposed to have power.
Mm-hmm.
Rhaenyra is supposed to have power. But because they're women, they're in the exact same position.
Mm-hmm. I think going into next season, I think there will be a big change. And what that change might be for the both of them, I can guess, like, some of it because I've read the books. But again, like, this show, like, it expands so much on the books. I can't predict all of the things that might happen with these two. But yeah, I found Alicent's trip to the woods this episode really intriguing.
Yeah. I mean, it would be fascinating if she was like, if she like pretended that she was going to start studying to be a silent sister or something, just to make people think that she was completely out of the picture, and then just, pop back up out of nowhere all of a sudden. Yeah.
I mean, like, in this episode, was it just me, or did it really seem like Alicent was feeling a bit suicidal almost? Because, like, the Kingsguard asks, like, when are we going back to the city? And Alicent says, like, I'm not sure I will go back to the city. And then she steps into a lake, and I'm like, uh-oh, are we really having an Ophelia moment?
I was not entirely sure what she meant by that.
Yeah. Like,
I'm not entirely sure the writers do either, if I'm being honest. Sure. I don't know, it might have just been like a cool line that they thought sounded cool. Or it might mean something. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, no, this really interesting thing. And yeah, a lot of the things we can speculate on aren't actually really said in the books, because, this little trip to the forest wasn't mentioned in the books, and Yeah, really interesting stuff. Do you have more you would like to say about Alicent, or shall we move on?
No, that's all I had for her.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so Rust is the history nerd, by the way, everybody, and I'm the theater nerd. So yeah, we have Corlys today. We have Corlys right here, and I I find his interactions with Alan and Adam really, really, really interesting. Um, because clearly he's not. He doesn't think of himself as like an actual father to these two just yet. But I think we're starting to see the vestiges of like Corlys trying to become closer to these two this episode. What do you think? What do you think about Corlys and his relationship with Alan and Adam?
So I had kind of gotten the impression that he had sort of tried throughout his life to be a father to Alan, and that Alan had always rejected it, and that potentially, did he know about, I know he knew about Alan being his son for the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Did he always know that Adam was his son, or was that news to him at some point?
It's really interesting that you bring that up, because I am not actually sure myself, because in episode 1 of this season, or I think it might have been episode 2, it was episode 1. Yeah. Alan mentions that he has a brother, and Corlys looked kind of shocked when Alan mentioned his brother. So the answer is I don't know.
Okay. Because the sort of impression I got was that he'd always sort of reached out, put out feelers to be a father towards Alan, and Alan was always like, no, I want to do this on my own. That's why he shaves his head and everything. And that if he was aware of Adam, that response from Alan might have just kept him from trying with Adam at all. So Adam might feel like, his father just never reached out to him. If he did actually know about him this entire time. But I very much get the impression that he had been trying to have some sort of relationship with at least one, Alan prior to all of this. But now that he's got no son with him, it's going to be, I guess, it would be less problematic, I guess. It wouldn't be like insulting to his own line for him to start acknowledging bastards or anything like that. Especially now that his wife is dead.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Corlys has lost like so many people in his life. He's lost both his kids. He's lost his wife. He's lost his brother. Like, damn. Like, can we please give this guy a break?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm confident in saying that Alan and Adam are like brothers, like they might be half brothers, because Alan has like the Valyrian hair and Adam doesn't. I don't know if they're. I think they might even be like half brothers in the show, like in the books.
I fully assume that they have different mothers.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting because, Adam is the one with black hair, but Adam's also the one who claimed the dragon. So,
yeah,
in my mind, that's a sort of like, we talked about this earlier in the video, but like, in my mind, that's sort of like a subtle nod, wink, wink at the fact that Valyrian blood isn't even necessary to claim a dragon. Because Alan, the person with like visible Valyrian, I guess, genes with the white hair, he didn't claim sea smoke. Adam did. So
yeah, but Adam has Valyrian blood.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess Corlys. It's interesting.
That's what he was saying. I think this episode is he's like, we were never dragon lords, but we are Valyrian.
We are Valyrian. Yeah, it's interesting because like, are the Velaryons able to just ride dragons themselves, or is it the Targaryen blood that allowed people like Laena and Laenor to ride their respective dragons?
I'm starting to
not
think
sure.
that I'm starting to think that this whole mythos of who can and cannot ride a dragon is just like a manufactured religion to maintain power.
Yeah.
Because the dragons were probably created magically, right? They seem to be a combination of a wyvern and a fireworm.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be, I don't know. I was going to say it would be difficult to, create a magical beast that's loyal to a particular bloodline, but I don't know how that would be much more difficult than making a magical beast in the first place.
Yeah.
But my suspicion is that they're just regular animals, and because we see that, right? At the end, where we're told that it's not supposed to work, but then it works. So it strikes me as like the Missionaria Protectiva from Dune, where they just manufactured a religion that if people follow it happens to work out for the ruling class.
Interesting. Yeah, and last season as well, Viserys also told Rhaenyra, the idea that we control the dragons is an illusion. Maybe there's some truth in that.
Everything I have to say about this is going to include spoilers from the final scene. So.
All right. Yeah, sure. Let's move this to the end of the queue then. Do you have any non-spoiler stuff you would like to say about Corlys, about Alan and Adam, and all those fine folks?
No.
Gotcha.
This is going to be mildly related.
Okay.
What's the name of the girl who's leaving the Vale?
Rhaena. We're going to be talking about Rhaena at the end. I have a photo of Rhaena. Okay. It's kind of at this point it's kind of customary for us to talk about Rhaena in the spoiler section. Okay. But yeah. What do you have to say about Rhaena?
I was just wondering why she was leaving the Vale.
Oh, yeah. I think the plan was for Joffrey to stay in the Vale as because Joffrey has a tiny dragon, Tyraxes, and then Rhaena would escort Aegon the Younger and Viserys the Younger further to Pentos because it's even safer. Okay. It's even safer than the Vale, apparently.
Okay, I thought she was like getting tossed out, or she'd been called back home for some reason.
Yeah, no, I got that feeling too. Like from Jane Eyre in this episode, that look that she gave Rhaena was a very, very harsh look.
And did she really escort them all the way to the Bloody Gate? Like she's making that whole climb up.
Yeah,
no. To, like, escort somebody out.
Yeah, because you need to ride the fucking goats to get back to the... Yeah. Well, in the books you need to ride the goats. In the show, I don't think you need to ride goats to get to the Eyrie.
I guess Tyrion didn't have to take the turnip lift in the show, did he?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that entire chapter was cut out in Game of Thrones. Yeah, Catelyn was in the mountains of in the Vale, and then she was just in the Eyrie. She didn't have the chapter of her riding the goats.
Right.
Which was one of my favorite chapters in Game of Thrones. Like, honestly, her riding the goats, that was so fun to read.
They're burros, by the way.
Oh, sorry, wait, what? They're...
burros? Like small donkeys?
Oh, okay, interesting.
I don't believe they were riding goats.
Interesting. Okay, the more you know. The more you know. Cool stuff. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Rhaena at the end. Do you have anything more you'd like to say?
No, that was just because of her relation to Mr. Valyrian there.
Gotcha. So. All right, sounds good. Okay, which image were we on? Okay, yeah, we're on this image. We're at this is like tangentially related. This is the scene where Jace talks about his bastardy with Rhaenyra. This is kind of like tangentially related to all of the dragon claiming stuff. He's talking about, he knows he's a bastard, he's not a fool, but the only reason he can claim to be a legitimate Targaryen heir is because he has a dragon, but if you give all of these bastards dragons, then all of a sudden his legitimacy is called into question. And anything interesting about this scene that you would like to point out? Because I I have some things that I would like to say.
Well, it just hadn't occurred to me before what he said, and it's absolutely true. So that's an interesting wrinkle that they're going to have to deal with moving forward. I've got a question for the end about it, but
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm a little surprised Rhaenyra doesn't have a plan to neutralize these dragon riders as soon as she's done using them.
Oh my god!
That seems like the sort of thing that she should have planned for ahead of time, and that she should have known that she needed to plan for.
Oh my... Really? Wait, you're positing that after the war, Rhaenyra should terminate the dragon seeds? Like, do you mean kill them, or what? Kill them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
wow,
if she can somehow permanently separate them from the dragons, then sure. But, she's creating deadly weapons that are not going to be directly under her control.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting stuff. That's
really all I took from that. She should have that plan. I don't think she does have that plan.
Yeah, I don't think as well.
Plan, but in the background, actually. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that never occurred to me. Yeah, I don't really know what to say to that because it never really occurred to me. But that's super interesting. I think she wants to portray herself as like a benevolent ruler, and at this point, at least, thinking about terminating the dragon seeds after the war is done, I think would be uncharacteristic of her. At this moment, in the future, who knows? Yeah, yeah.
But she has to know that she has to know that she's creating multiple knives to be held at her and her children's throats.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that might be a really interesting plot point going forward in how Rhaenyra has to grapple with the fact that her heir to the throne, that Jaehaerys, is a bastard. Yeah. I wonder how that storyline's gonna progress, because we see in this episode that Jaehaerys is sort of like hesitant about this whole war thing, he tells Rhaenyra to not pursue any of this, and it almost reads to me that he's telling her, why don't you just throw in the towel and give up, because even if you win the Iron Throne, like, once you're gone, like, the line of Targaryen kings will be passed down to bastards, essentially. That's what I got from that scene. And Jace is in a really difficult position right now, and I really sympathize with him.
Yeah. So Rhaenyra has 2 sons, right? And that's it?
Rhaenyra has 5.
Yeah,
right. No. Rhaenyra has 5. Yeah. Rhaenyra has 5. One is dead. He has Jaehaerys. She has Jaehaerys. She has Joffrey, who's in the Vale, and then she has Aegon the Younger and Viserys the Younger, who are Daemon's children as well.
I forgot about the whole fucking Daemon thing. Jesus
Christ. Yep.
Oh man. Well, that's another wrinkle, because that Daemon's gonna murder some strong bastards in favor of his own children.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so interesting. I think I talked about this a little bit with some of my other guests, I forget who, but so Laenor's alive. That's what we're gonna assume, unless we hear that Laenor's dead. Laenor's alive,
right.
So that makes Rhaenyra's children with Daemon bastards, because Rhaenyra technically wasn't married.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because like that marriage wouldn't be legitimate if Laenor is still alive. So like, her children with Daemon are also bastards. But that puts Rhaena and Baela in a very interesting position, Because all of a sudden, like, Rhaena and Bela are legitimate children. And so, you know, there's kind of a path for Daemon. If he wants to, like take the throne for himself. He just needs to kill Rhaenyra and every single one of her children, and then he's the heir to the throne. Or I guess Aegon's line as well, all of the Greens. But that's a lot of people you gotta go through. I guess maybe the path to Daemon's succession is a bit muddier than, but yeah. Rhaena and Bela, legitimate children, and none of Rhaenyra's kids are.
Right.
Crazy.
Good grief.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
These family trees are really difficult to keep up with, even as a book fan. Jeez.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't help that everybody has the same name, too.
Right. Yeah, that's a plot point, by the way. That's a plot point in this show. So the two Aegons got confused.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't
I think George Martin said that somebody told him, like, you're not supposed to have two characters whose names start with the same letter.
Yeah. And then he's like, I'll show you. Have you read that?
He was like, I went and read a history book and everybody had the same name. So
yeah, exactly. Have you seen I think the Preston Jacobs like fan chapter for the Winds of Winter? And okay, so the chapter begins, you know, and it's John, right? It's John. It's a John chapter. And then the first paragraph, it talks about, you know, John. It talks about someone near John, someone talking to John, says something about Rhaegar Targaryen's son, and said, "Oh, that's a nod, wink, wink." And then the second paragraph is just like John putting on his gloves and whatever. And then the third paragraph starts with John Connington, and it's the funniest shit. It's Preston Jacobs is something else.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all I have to say about Jaehaerys. He's in a very precarious position. I'm interested in seeing where this like bastard storyline goes in the future. I really sympathize with him. Yeah. Do you have anything more you'd like to say about Jaehaerys or I guess like any of the?
I think we're gonna see Jace acting out in some way.
Yeah.
Seizing power in some way for himself, or if it's just doing shitty little things behind the scene.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna make his mother pay for this dragon seed thing.
Yeah, no, interesting observation. Yeah, the rift between Rhaenyra and Jaehaerys wasn't really mentioned in the books, and that I find that to be an interesting addition. Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah.
Leo.
But yeah, that was all I had on that scene.
Nice. Let's move on to like the scene of the episode, right? And it's
first, right before we get to that, I wanted to mention that the in the tavern with Ulf, the jovial black man who's talking to him, I believe, is one of the main characters from Our Flag Means Death. Just wanted to point that
that's
out.
So cool. Yeah. Man,
on to the scene.
Yeah. No, we... the entire cast of Our Flag Means Death is going to be with the Triarchy next episode. Just calling that right now. Taika Waititi is gonna come in and he's gonna say some shit. The claiming of the dragons. Man, really awful stuff. Honestly, poor dragon seeds. I mean, like when I was reading it in the book, like okay, you know, I sort of got the impression that the claiming of the dragons, it was like a situation where one person went in, they failed. It was like It's like a Tinder thing, right? Vermithor's like, no, swipe,
Yeah,
swipe,
I thought it
swipe.
was more like the scenes we got of, people bringing heads to Cersei after she put a bounty on Tyrion,
Mm.
where just a guy would show up every once in a while, be like, hey, I want to try, and then, it worked or it didn't. And
Yeah.
even in this scene, even if they did bring everybody all at once, like, don't have them all stand next to each other. Like, if
Yeah,
the dragon decides to
no.
burn one, he's going to burn at least three at that point. Like,
Especially because it's like the
don't.
biggest fucking dragon in the world besides Rhaegar, right?
Yeah, don't group up, spread out, give him
Yeah.
multiple targets.
Mm-hmm. So I think we can classify this as a change, and I don't think we can classify this as like a thing that the books got wrong. I think we can safely classify this as a show change, and for the sake of time, I understand it. But I'm also kind of sad that we didn't get Cannibal or Grey Ghost, to be honest.
Mhm.
I'm like, where's
Yeah.
my guy? Where's Cannibal? But I can't complain because we got to see Vermithor, we got to see Silverwing, and the claiming of those two dragons was just like the coolest thing in the world to me. Like,
Yeah.
I
The woman or the young girl that Ulf was or not Ulf, the other guy was distracting the dragon from, is that Nettles?
No, Nettles is a black girl with I think brown hair, black hair in the books. So that couldn't be Nettles.
So what's his? I keep forgetting his name. The guy that claimed the Vermithor.
Hugh,
thank you.
Yeah.
So he's distracting Vermithor from that girl. So that girl obviously then survived the situation as well, right?
Yes. Presumably.
Okay, so it looks like we have 3 survivors and 2 of them claim dragons. Mm-hmm. So we may have a third person who's capable of claiming a dragon there.
Yeah. Or I don't know if we can safely say that only 3 people survived. I think there might have been more people like that survived off screen, maybe but like, to be honest, I don't think that girl will be important. That's my belief. I might be wrong. She might come back in the future. In some capacity. Yeah, I think I think that this scene was just to show us that, Hugh has a dragon now, Ulf has a dragon now. And by the way, like this scene, I think for me really highlighted the fact that like these dragons have really different personalities, right? We have Vermithor who's just out here murking people and like eating them. And then you have Silverwing, who's like, oh, you stepped in my clutch of eggs? Well, I'm going to boop you twice. Get away. And, you look cool. You smell cool. You can ride me. Silverwing's such a precious little girl. I love Silverwing so much.
At the very beginning of this scene with the dragon trainers, first of all, it was very interesting to learn how much of a religion this is.
Yes.
But here's I've got a lot of questions from this, actually. So first of all, when they say that this is blasphemy, letting someone other than a dragon lord ride a dragon, blasphemy against who?
My answer to that would probably be like Valyria, old Valyria, in some capacity. But, that's a very vague and nebulous term, right?
But there has to be a god that you're blaspheming.
Ooh, interesting. If I remember correctly, the Valyrians didn't have like worshipped many gods, right? Or I don't think they worshipped gods. I think they allowed people in their empire to worship whatever god they liked,
right?
But they didn't worship any. They were essentially like atheists, because they viewed themselves as gods.
Okay.
I think that's
okay.
I think that's what's up.
So these guys probably then, they probably worship the dragons, basically.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
Okay.
Interesting stuff.
So then the other question that comes out of that is, if the Dragon Keepers were aware that Jace was a bastard, would they consider him riding a dragon to be blasphemy as well?
Shit, yeah, you're right.
And it points out that just because they think something is blasphemy doesn't mean it doesn't work. right? So this whole idea that you have to have, we're thinking you have to have, Targaryen blood.
Yeah.
They think you have to be a dragon lord, and they're obviously wrong, which probably means everybody's wrong. And it has nothing to do with blood or anything, and it's just a religion that was cooked up for the, sake of the ruling class. But
yeah, no, because the exact turn of phrase, I think, was, or the reason why the Dragon Keepers were mad about this, at least what I thought, was because they brought an andal to the dragon. I think they used that word. They used the word like you, like they used the word that like Stefan Darkland was an andal. But then again, like, are these people, like, these people have a bit of Valyrian blood in them, right? Like, would they be considered?
I was gonna say, I mean, what race are these dragon keepers?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
who have they been marrying into for all these generations? Like, are they keeping their bloodlines pure by marrying themselves? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, like, are they Valyrians?
Right.
Like, maybe, like, people from Lys or something? I don't know. It's really interesting. I definitely wonder if we're going to see, if the Dragon Keepers walking out, if that, like, impacts the story going forward. I'm really interested in seeing, like, what that could lead to.
Yeah, and that was another scene. I just realized, I mentioned this to Mira on her stream last night. Basically, I didn't buy Rhaenyra letting them chew her out like that in front of other people, especially commoners. Even if it was in High Valyrian, it was still obvious that they were arguing with her and then walking out.
Yeah, okay.
So in my opinion, what she should have done, honestly, is as soon as that guy basically said no, because if they're taking a shot at your dragons, they're taking a shot right at the heart of your power, right? It's not just something personal, it's also business, right? Like, it's a problem. I think that as soon as that first guy made it clear that he was not going to cooperate, I think she should have walked right up to him, slapped him right across the face, and had someone cut his tongue out. Like, right there.
Okay.
That's what should have happened when he did that. Now, it worked out because all of the commoners who saw this are dead now, for the most part.
Jeez. Yeah. You are still,
right. Like, it was weird to me. I'm shocked that she let that fly.
The mythos of the dragons is really interesting. And I mean, how would you react in that situation, honestly? In
which position?
In what you just said,
if I were Rhaenyra?
Yeah. I mean, you just said your position, but I'm just sort of, like, wondering to myself of, like, what would what would happen, because like you're advocating for, like, a more ruthless approach, which is like, I don't want to say it's like better or worse than what happened, but my argument against that, I guess, would be that if you're going to be, like, cutting out tongues in front of these bastards, like, that's the first impression that these bastards have of you, right? Is that you're someone who cuts out the tongues of people who just disagree with you on anything. I feel like that would be a bad look as well.
That wasn't just disagreeing, that was open rebellion in front of the small folk. That's why I'm saying it's not like I said, it's not even something personal. It's not you're doing it because, like, they hurt your feelings or something. It's because they just took a shot at your power, not only a shot at your dragons, right? Like, they're saying, we're not going to help you with your dragons anymore, which sort of feels like a threat, right?
Yeah.
Vaguely, at least. So they're threatening her, and at the same time openly defying her in front of the small folk. It's not just disagreeing. They're not saying this is a bad idea, we think you should do something else. They're saying we will not do this. We are walking out and we're making a show of it.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah, I didn't like honestly. I didn't really think too much about the Dragon Keepers walking away, but now that you mention it, like, yeah, that might be a problem going forward. That might be a
Yeah.
problem. And you have a bunch of people. Um, ooh, actually, that's a spoiler, but we can talk more about future events at the end. Do you have anything more you would like to talk about the seeds, this scene, the sowing of the seeds?
No, that is the end of my notes.
It was really really cool. Even though they changed a lot about it, I enjoyed it, and I understand why it had to be condensed. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't see them trickling in slowly as being like a better viewing experience. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the first guy that was like Silver Dennis, I think. I don't know. I really thought he would
The first guy who walked up, the one with the hunchback.
Yeah. I really thought like that guy might have like at least a couple of speaking lines, but apparently not. he was a supposed son, a supposed descendant of Maegor the Cruel. Apparently in the books, which doesn't really make any sense because Maegor was known to be infertile. Yeah, cool stuff. Moving on to the last scene of the episode, which, by the way, this is like poster material. This is like the poster shot. This was really cool. I love this shot. We have the gold, the silver, and the bronze. Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
What did you think about like the last 5 minutes of the episode? Like Silverwing flying over King's Landing. Me personally, I found it a little bit silly. I thought Tessarion arrived because in that lighting, Silverwing looked a bit blue. So I literally stood up, yelled, and I was like, is that Tessarion? No, it was Silverwing, and it was kind of silly, but okay, sure. But yeah, what did you think of it?
Well, my first thought when I was watching the scene was, how long is the flight from King's Landing to Dragonstone? And I had to do some Googling, and apparently if you do the math from the original show, these dragons can fly at like 140 miles an hour. So I guess it's only an hour one way, about, from Dragonstone to King's Landing. Because I was thinking like it was like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm like, did this guy just like pursue him for that long just to give up at the last minute?
An hour is still a long time.
I don't understand why the overflight happened. Did Rhaenyra send him to do that? Did he lose control of his dragon?
Yeah.
Was he just sightseeing? So there's that. I don't know why he was there, or what it accomplished, other than giving the enemy intelligence that they didn't have before. And then the pursuit was really interesting. I did not expect. I didn't expect him to chase him on Vhagar. I don't know why. I got the distinct impression that actor does not know how to ride a horse at full gallop, which is unfortunate. Which is very difficult. A horse galloped under me one time, and that was enough. Let's see. And the fact that he has to fight Vhagar still is, I think, a really interesting aspect of their relationship. Some people have said, I think it was the Golden Boy, who's also in our server, said in one of his videos that he wonders if they ever truly actually bonded. I wouldn't go that far. I think he's, it's just an old obstinate dragon who might be hard of hearing, or selectively hard of hearing as well. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic that we saw there. I am glad to see that he has control of the dragon. He's learned that much, at least, since
since Luke's death,
incidental homicide there.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely fun seeing all the dragons as well, like all up in one frame shot. So
an hour is still a long time.
I enjoyed
by the way.
it. I was confused, but yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I did find it a little bit silly. I didn't mind it too much. But yeah, I guess it just gives us this shot was why that scene occurred. In my head, I think Ulf genuinely just was like drunk in that moment, like drunk flying Silverwing over King's Landing, and that was what like
Yeah.
that's what I think happened there. I don't think.
Did he come from King's Landing?
Yeah, no, he flew to King's Landing and then he flew back to Dragonstone.
No, I mean when before he went to Dragonstone, was he coming from King's Landing?
Yeah.
Before he claimed the dragon.
Yeah, Ulf.
Okay.
Came from
Okay,
King's
so
Landing.
that makes more sense then. He probably just wanted his friends to see him.
Oh yeah, that's a very funny image in my head. That all of Ulf's friends are like, "Is that Ulf up there? Oh my gosh!" Yeah, that's cool.
He's like, "I fucking told you guys. You all owe me a drink."
Oh my god. Yeah. I don't think that's something that will be explained next episode. It really feels like one of those plot points, like Rhaenys coming up from the dragon pit, where it's just supposed to like look cool but not really explained, which sucks. I hope that they do.
He might get in trouble for it.
Oh,
he
yeah,
might get
yeah.
a bit of a lecture.
Yeah.
And that might explain to us, why and how it happened. But,
okay, yeah. I can see that happening, actually. Yeah, I hope they do take maybe even like a couple of lines, just like a couple of seconds, being like, Ulf, don't do that again. And he's like, oh, yes, Your Grace, or whatever. Yeah, I really hope that
because they're probably going to have to dry him out as well to make him effective as a battle tool.
They're definitely going to have training, those two. I don't know who's going to train them.
And that's going to be fascinating to see if they can still accept direction once they have a dragon.
Oh, what do you mean? Like, like, yeah, like, are they loyal to Rhaenyra?
Why would I let anybody tell me what to do? I've got a fucking dragon. Screw you.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
I'm going to go fly somewhere else and be a lord of my own little place with my own little dragon.
Interesting.
Or just, I can behave however I want. That sort of thing. Like I said, Ulf is a drunk. They're probably going to try to dry him out to make him useful. But he might just be like, yeah, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. I mean, especially if they work together. That's two
Rhaenyra
dragons.
With her dragon to fight me? Like, that's
what you're
going to do? I don't think so.
I mean, as cool as Syrax is, Syrax is nowhere near as large as Vermithor.
Well, it's also, you don't want your queen, risking her life just to bring one schmuck into line.
Yeah. But
I was thinking about that the other day because I was doing something on the real life Battle of Shrewsbury, where both claimants to the throne happened to get shot in the face with arrows during the battle.
Oh.
And only one of them died. There's a very famous surgery that took place to save the other guy, but just like how silly would you feel, right? Like if you're in the middle of a war and like both guys who are fighting for the throne die at the same time on the same battlefield, and then you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
I wonder what that was all about.
Very Stannis core. Like that kind of, that was something that sort of weirded me out a bit about the Battle of the Blackwater, was like, okay, Stannis, if I were you, like, sure, like I would like be in the army, I guess, for morale and like march upon King's Landing, but I wouldn't be literally like the first man on the shore,
Yeah. And then in the show, they don't even have him wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
It's just his bare fucking head flapping around.
It's like, ooh, I don't know if you want to do that, Stannis. And like, while it's
we've
cool,
learned that having the guy that you're fighting for leading from the front just is counterproductive.
Cool stuff. Rhaenyra has 2 more dragons. That's really cool.
Yep.
Rust. Just for funsies, who's your favorite dragon in the show?
Probably Vhagar.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, he reminds me of myself.
Nice.
Stubborn, ornery, doesn't want to listen.
You just want to sleep all day, and if you're not sleeping, you want to eat. You want to eat people. Yep. Cool. Exactly. After seeing all of these dragons this season, I honestly have to say that Moon Dancer is probably my favorite dragon. Just because of the thing that Ryan Condal said about him being based off of David Bowie. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Moon Dancer is my favorite. Yeah. Which I hope we get to see more of Moon Dancer next episode. I really hope we get to see Moon Dancer doing some stuff. From what we see in the trailer for next episode, we're getting a lot of dragons next episode. And from what we see in next episode's trailer, we're also getting Tessarion next episode. That's fucking bonkers. Oh, wait, did you know that? Wait, did I just spoil that for you? Did you know that before?
No, that was from the trailer, right?
Yeah, that was from the trailer next episode.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, we got to see Tessarion in the oh, so cool. Nice. I am so excited for next episode. I'm so excited for this episode. Or I was so excited when this episode aired and I saw all of the dragons. Really good stuff.
Yeah, Dragon Seeds were probably the part of the story that I was most looking forward to from what I could remember of it.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I'm still definitely waiting on Nettles. I want to see her.
Yeah. Which we can talk a little bit about Nettles. Do you have any more you would like to say about, I guess, like the ending of the episode, or should we move into spoiler territory?
No, we can go straight into spoilers.
Okay, so, guys, we are going to go straight into spoilers. Everything goes, all of the book stuff, both past, present, future, that happens in this story is fair game. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Nettles, and the fact that it seems like Rhaena is gonna be taking the place of Nettles in the show, unless it's a last second fake out. Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's always possible. In the original series, they would occasionally like combine characters like that. Giving Sansa the Jane Poole storyline and stuff like that. So, if they're going to cut someone out, it would probably be someone like Nettles. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, like, for me personally, like, I don't mind too much in theory, but I would definitely still prefer if Nettles was her own character. I really...
Yeah. Now, the dragon that's bothering the Vale, is that Sheep Stealer?
From what we know about, like, from all of the context clues, it's probably Sheep Stealer, right? There was all of this talk back in season 1 of the Vale being famous for its sheep, and now we have a dragon in the Vale probably eating sheep and all of these sheep bones. Yeah. It's probably Sheep Stealer.
So we could potentially have, Rhaenyra on her little journey encountering Sheep Stealer, because she obviously is interested, because the first thing she did after she got out of the Bloody Gate was start investigating the dragon sign. And so there's the possibility that she stumbles across Sheep Stealer and either takes him or is there like just in time to witness Nettles taking him.
I really hope it's the latter. I really hope like, Rhaena's following this trail of like burnt ground and all of these sheep bones, and then she follows it to Nettles, and then I really hope Nettles has not been cut. I really hope it's a last minute fake out. Ryan Condal, from what we know, is refusing to answer any questions about Nettles, and that kind of gives me hope, because in my head it would make sense that if they cut Nettles, they would just say they cut Nettles, right? In my head, right. That makes sense. Where do you stand on that? Do you think my logic is flawed? What say you?
The issue with Condal is that you never know why he's doing or not doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he worked on Game of Thrones.
So it's just... both with him and with D&D, you look at something and you're like, they're obviously doing it because of this. And then they'll say something that's so far out of left field that you're like, what?
No.
Right? Like,
it can't
like
be.
writing the line that the rebellion was based on a lie, right? Like, I mean, even that, just like, I don't know. So I Condal refusing to speak about it. If he were a normal, logical person, it would be because we're going to meet her. But because it's Condal and it's because it's someone who's involved with D&D, it could just be him not wanting people to yell at him because he cut Nettles, right? Like, so, yeah, I don't know what to read into that. I like the fact, what would be really interesting, I think, is if they became, like, really close friends. And additionally, what I'm looking forward to with Nettles is that she's supposed to have a really foul mouth as well.
Oh, yeah, no, she...
it'd be interesting to have that around the royals.
Yeah.
Especially the young princesses.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, like... most signs point towards Rhaena being combined with Nettles, and I'm concerned. Because the moment Game of Thrones started cutting characters, that's where things kind of went downhill. Like...
Yeah.
People after the Red Wedding were like, okay, when are we getting Stoneheart? And then it didn't happen. And then they waited the next episode 10, and it was like, when are we getting Stoneheart? And it never happened. And it was like, oh, it's going to be a cold open for season 4, episode 1. And it just never happened. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really like what they did with Lemoncloak either.
Hold on. Lemoncloak was in Game of Thrones?
Barely.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
I don't think he was even named.
Oh, okay.
You know him by his yellow cloak as well.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, because I was like...
that whole thing with the Hound and Swearingen. I can't remember his name in the series. When they murdered those that society that the Hound found.
That society that the Hound found.
With that group.
Okay. Oh wait,
I don't know what it's called.
Lemoncloak was a later edition in like seasons 5, 6, 7. That's super interesting.
I think that's the only time I remember seeing him. And
why?
I think he was one of the ones that got executed for it. Or maybe he was the one overseeing the execution. I don't remember.
Oh my god, but
yeah, that was the only time we really see him.
That's crazy. That's crazy. What if we're getting Mushroom? Right? No, what if Mushroom was that one, like, a little person who was in season 1, episode 5 during the wedding who was, like, pounding on a drum? Like, that's Mushroom. That's our one Mushroom.
Getting Mushroom in this series is something that is so cool and awesome that I don't think the people involved could possibly do it. I don't think
that's
cool
a read.
That's
okay. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I think the mushroom boat has sailed. The mushroom ship has sailed. Unfortunately. Yeah, do you have anything more you would like to say about Sheepstealer, Nettles, Rhaena, all that sort of stuff? What do you think Daemon's story is going to be if Nettles gets caught?
Oh, jeez.
Do you think, like, okay, so my pitch is that, you know, because all of Rhaenyra's children are bastards, technically, that puts Rhaena and Baela, like, closer towards the line of succession, and maybe once Daemon realizes that, he'll get closer to Rhaena and Baela, and maybe, you know, like, here we see Rhaena's technically, like, abandoning her duties of protecting Viserys and Aegon, and, like, you know, in the books, we know that Aegon and Viserys, like, Viserys gets kidnapped, right? What if, in the show, Rhaenyra's mistrust of Nettles is translated to Rhaenyra mistrusting Rhaena because Rhaena failed to protect her kids, right? That would be my pitch.
Yeah, and it's absolutely possible. I don't remember enough about the books to really go into that.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You haven't read the books in a long time. That's fair.
Yeah, Fire and Blood's been a while.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to the next thing? I honestly I forget some of the things I wanted to talk about, but but yeah, we have these two apparently. Is there any more like
that's the first one, wasn't it?
Sorry?
That was our opening image.
Yeah, that was our opening image with Sea Smoke and Cyrax. I think I wanted to talk about Laenor in regards to this image. Have you seen the theory on the Interesting Nerd Club about Laenor being Black Trombo? Have you heard that theory? Okay.
No,
like Black Trombo is one of those like quaternary characters who that appears in Fire and Blood, and he's the person who ends up killing Kristen Cole. And so the theory is like, wouldn't it be cool if, you know, Kristen Cole killed Laenor's boyfriend, and then, you know, Laenor comes back and then kills Kristen Cole. That'd be cool.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Now, in the books, though, is Laenor black?
In the books, the Velaryons are not black, no.
Okay, because Black Trombo is definitely black, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I would assume so. I don't think it's specifically mentioned. So, like, there's an argument that maybe he's not black, but yeah, maybe, perhaps. We don't know.
For some reason, I thought people from Mirror were black. Although, I guess, no, that would be the Summer Isles.
Yeah.
All right. So then we have no idea what color his is. I was going to say, though, because if he is black in the books, then that would be a change in the show. But if he's not, then it might not be.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. What else was I going to say? Now, this is like the thing about moving spoiler talk to the end. It's like, I forget what spoilery stuff I was even going to talk about.
That's why I wrote mine down.
Whoops, I should probably do that. But yeah, do you have anything more you would like to say while we're in the spoiler territory, I guess?
I don't think so. All I've got really that I'm particularly remembering and looking forward to is Nettles.
Yeah, and we might not get her.
I'm trying to remember the chapter Dangerous Women happens during the dance, right?
Dangerous Women.
I should reread that.
What chapter is that? Could you briefly tell me about that chapter and what happens there?
Well, Dangerous Women is a book that several authors, including George Martin, wrote for, and there's a chapter in there that takes place in... Let me pull this up here. George Martin.
Oh my God!
Takes place in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe.
Oh, really?
So we've got... Yeah. It's okay. So his chapter is called "The Princess and the Queen."
Oh yeah, that's Rhaenyra and Alicent, right? What is it? Did that end up in Fire and Blood? Do we know, or is that something? Because like "The Princess and the Queen" is a chapter title for one of for in Fire and Blood.
So I'm not entirely sure, but let me give you the synopsis. Okay.
Yeah.
So it covers specifically the coup that takes place right after Viserys dies.
Yeah.
So the whole, hiding the fact that he's dead and crowning her son in secret, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And then it covers the War of Succession. Sorry, it's been a while since I read that one as well. But
yeah, no worries.
Reception adaptation. Okay. It looks like it's just an overview of the dance from that point.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
I'll have to reread it. Okay. But yeah, there's that one, and then there's another chapter in another collection called Rogues.
The Rogue Prince?
Let me see here.
That would be Daemon.
Where's the George Martin chapter? Introduction. Everybody loves a rogue.
Oh.
The Rogue Prince or a King's Brother.
Yeah. That's Daemon.
Okay.
I think that just might be like either condensed or expanded versions of what ended up in Fire and Blood. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, I think it's like his early drafts, maybe.
Yeah.
Or not his early drafts, but his like less just his less finished versions of it that eventually got compiled into that. Because my understanding is that the stuff for Fire and Blood and the World of Ice and Fire like was all just taken from his previous notes. It's not like he was actually sitting down and writing new books in between.
Because like the Dance of the Dragons, like clearly it was like George thought about that concept very early on, because like our first mention of the dance happens in like very early in book 1 when Bran thinks about Eric and Arik killing each other, right?
Yeah.
I'm really interested in seeing like the early drafts of what would eventually be known as the dance, like what that looked like. It's crazy to think
it'd be nice if he put out his notebooks like that. There was you ever read The Far Side by Gary Larson?
I have not.
It's a single panel comic that's pretty funny. But he released a book a while ago where he would have his sketchbook version of the comic on one side and then the actual published version on the other. And you can see sort of the evolution there. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool, yeah. I mean, we do have, like, the George R. R. Martin, like, I think, have you heard about, like, people finding early drafts at, like, a library of, like, A Feast for Crows and all of that? Like, early feast chapters, yeah. There were, like, early feast chapters in the perspective of, like, Rosie and of, like, the alchemist, Jack and Hagar, and all of that. Cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so it looks like we're not talking about House of the Dragon anymore. We're talking about A Song of Ice and Fire, which is a very fun thing to talk about. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember what I was going to talk about with Corlys and with these dragons surrounding spoiler talk. So I think we are done here for the most part. Rust, do you have anything more you would like to say?
Shit, I had something I wanted to say at the end. Nope, I lost that too.
Crazy. Okay, unfortunate. Yeah. So yeah, in that case, yeah, thank you so much for coming on to this show. It was super fun talking to you.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, and I'll see you soon.